Hello and welcome to another episode of B Movie Reviews. I am your host Rich and I have a great B movie for you today. The movie I am reviewing today asked an important question. Are you eating the stuff or is the stuff eating you? If you haven't guessed it, I will be reviewing the movie The Stuff. Warning, there will be spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen the movie, I suggest you go and watch it first. So, The Stuff, which I will probably be repeating this title quite a bit throughout the review. So, The Stuff was released in 1985. It's rated R and is designated as a horror sci-fi movie, although we'll get into a little bit of that and why it's not really a horror sci-fi. But anyway, so a quick summary of about the movie. A delicious, mysterious goo that oozes from the earth is marketed as the newest dessert sensation. But the tasty treat rots more than teeth when zombie-like snackers who only want to consume more of this strange substance at any cost begin infesting the world. So what is the premises of this movie? Pretty much the stuff is a strange goo that comes from the ground. It apparently tastes good, and it's a dessert treat that's marketed to the public. It's addicting and people are eating nothing but this stuff, and they have no room for a sensible diet. So the stuff actually makes people into what are called in the movie stuffies, which are mind controlled zombie like people. The stuff is controlling them from the inside, and you have your protagonist character here, Mo Rutherford, who is into corporate espionage. He's hired by the ice cream companies in the movie to infiltrate the Stuff Corporation and try to steal the recipe. You have another supporting character named Jason, and he's a kid who actually sees the stuff moving on its own, and he tries to warn people, but of course, in movies like this, he will be ignored. And then there is the supporting female character of Nicole, who is actually the main advertiser for the stuff, and once she realizes what it's doing to people, she tries to help Mo to put an end to it. And of course, by the end of the movie, people are aware of what the stuff does, and it's taken off of shelves, it's taken out of distribution, and it actually becomes a market for drug activity, because at the end they show two guys, and one of them grabs a box out of the back of a truck, and another guy opens it and he sees that it's the stuff, and he samples it, so in the 80s cocaine was really big, but now it's the stuff, so that it kind of took over. I just thought that was really, I guess, just kind of really funny ending to the movie. It becomes like a drug, which doesn't really surprise me though. So this movie is definitely a cult classic. It's got a great fan base. I'm one of them. And it was done on a very low budget of only like 1.7 million, which even back then wasn't a lot for a movie, especially a movie that was going to have a villain that is this gelatinous style monster or character that you were going to have to show on screen. So a lot of the money for this movie went to these visual effects for these stuff. So what makes this a B movie? Well, of course, definitely the low budget. By nature, B movies are low budget. But even though the movie had a low budget, the filming techniques and use of visual effects for the time were properly used, with the exception of probably when the stuff is on fire or being electrocuted. There's a scene where Mo electrocutes the stuff, and it's kind of a cheesy visual effect with the electricity, kind of like the Force lightning that the Emperor gives Luke in Return of the Jedi. So, overall, though, they did a really good job with the limited budget they had. They really put the money where it needed to be, which was going to be in this visual effects area. And secondly, and probably most importantly, this movie was made to be a B movie. Larry Cohen wasn't trying to make some type of Oscar critically acclaimed movie here, okay? He was making a fun B movie. And even though the movie was marketed as a horror flick, that was really more the production company's idea than the director Larry Cohen's vision for the film. He wanted it to be marketed as a horror comedy. This is where I'm going back to that genre labeling of a horror sci-fi. It really should be a horror comedy, even though we understand it's not really a horror film in the traditional aspects of a horror film. It is a horror comedy. It was a spoof. It was supposed to be making fun of movies like The Blob and Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That's the whole premises of this movie. It was meant to be a B movie. And that is definitely one of the two categories that a B movie is going to fall in. Either it was meant to be one, or somebody tried and failed and the movie became one. Okay, and lastly, the acting. Now, the acting's definitely not the greatest in the movie by some of the characters, but here's the thing. The movie is supposed to be a satire. So some of the characters' lines are supposed to be comical and cheesy and corny, and some of the scenes are supposed to be comical and cheesy and corny. That by nature is what the film was supposed to be. So if you understand that, then you understand that this is a great movie for this category of a B movie. So what were some of the things I actually liked about this movie? And I do really like this movie. So for me, I saw this movie when I was a kid several times. I didn't see it in theaters or anything like that, but I did see this movie on cable TV several times when I was a little kid, and it's probably been about 30 years since I've seen this movie. And watching it the other day just brought back this nostalgic type moment for me of watching this movie, remembering when I was a kid and I saw this movie and remembering that the movie to me really wasn't scary when I was a little kid. I found it kind of comical. I understood, even though I didn't understand the filmmaker's idea of the movie, I understood that the movie wasn't supposed to be scary, really. It was meant more to be funny or to be kind of this horror comedy type thing, even though I didn't understand that. So I just knew, I called it a friendly horror movie when I was a kid. And there were quite a few movies like that. So for me, this rewatching it kind of just invoked this childhood memory for me of enjoying this film. And when I saw it again, I said, you know what? I still enjoy the film. It's still a good film. I still can watch this film as an adult and say I'm highly enjoyed by it, or I'm highly impressed with it. So the other thing that I liked is definitely, I've talked about this, definitely the visual effects were decent for this movie. Again, low budget film, but they did it so right. And I can't say this enough, because this is an area where if you are going to have a low budget film, you're going to have to put money somewhere. Most of your money is going to have to go to a certain aspect of the movie. And of course, they did it right. They put it towards the actual stuff, the creature of the stuff, as it's moving through when it's coming out of people. I thought that was actually that was one of the best visual effects too, is when it's coming out of somebody. The creature creator models that they used and stuff like that, I thought was really awesome. For me, I can't say enough about the visual effects. I thought they were super awesome in how they did this. The other thing that I liked was kind of is this message about consumerism that Larry Cohen was talking about. This consumerism in the United States at the time. This was in the 80s. It was 1985. So you had a lot of these companies that were selling products, and they still kind of do sell products like this to this day, but they knew that these products are dangerous, and they didn't care. They're going to sell them anyway because the profits were so good for them. And this is like kind of like cigarettes and alcohol and stuff like that. This is kind of that message that he was sending, but he didn't do it in a preachy way. He did it in a very respectful, comical, witty way. And that he wasn't shoving this message down your throat. It was more of a comical way in which he did it, and kind of just poking fun at the whole consumerism of the United States at the time. So I just thought that was a really awesome way that he relayed that message. Okay, one of my dislikes. I didn't really have any. I couldn't really think of any for the movie because I understand what the movie is and what it was meant to be. And I understand that it was marketed wrong, but that's not what, I guess in a way I can say I'm going to add this to my dislikes. Okay. The way it was marketed, I thought was terrible. They should have took the advice of Larry Cohen and said, we're going to market it as a horror comedy. It's a spoof movie. It's not meant to be a horror movie, but they market it as a horror movie. So when people went to see it, they thought they were going to see a horror movie like The Blob or something like that. And when they saw him and said, this isn't scary, people were disappointed. So that's why the movie didn't do as well as it should have, but over the years has done better and has gotten a kind of this cult following of people who really enjoy the film. The other thing that I didn't care much for was the character of Jason. At first it was okay, but at a certain point in the movie, his character kind of becomes useless, and he kind of seems like he's getting in the way more, especially like the scene where Nicole and Jason are participating in this raid on the stuff factory. Why would you have a kid and a woman who isn't armed there? If you were going to have them there, throw a gun in one of their hands or something, so they can defend themselves or contribute to the defense of someone else. But they did, but they had them there and leading this assault on this factory. And I was like, why are they there? That's totally pointless. Other than for that whole scene, which I thought they did a great job. They used a model where the stuff was coming into this room, flooding this room, and Jason and Nicole have to hop over these bins to get away. And they were able to put them into this shot of the model real seamlessly. So they did an excellent job with this, and that, if I guess for anything for that scene, since it did work out, it was worth it. But I'm more of a I look for logic and stuff, and I didn't find it in that. Having a kid and a woman who's unarmed with you to lead an assault on a factory of stuffies that are zombies that are going to protect or fight to stop you from coming in to the factory. So It's just a personal thing. So I thought the movie is actually really great. And that's going to bring me to my favorite scene of the movie, which is actually the hotel scene. This is where Nicole and Mo are sleeping in the bed of that hotel room. And apparently the bed is made out of the stuff because it comes out and it attacks Mo as if knowing that he's the greater threat to this organism. And conveniently there's like this old like oil lamp type thing, so it's a lamp that runs off of oil and you light it with a match, and it uses like kerosene or something to or lamp oil to as its heating source or its lighting source. And she grabs it and pours it onto his face and lights it on fire, not knowing if it's going to work, but desperate times call for desperate measures, I guess. So it works. It winds up working, and it burns it off. But the effects weren't as great when the stuff was on fire in the room. But that's not the point here. The point was the camera techniques that they used and the set design that was used to show when the stuff is like going up the wall. And apparently this stuffy runs in. I guess he's like controlled by the stuff, and I guess he's trying to attack them or something like that. I'm not sure. I all I remember was that he runs in and the stuff like attacks him, thinking I guess he's the threat. And so the stuff is like moving up the wall. And what's great is because they use a set design that's like turned on its side, and the camera is turned a different way, so it looks like you're looking at the room straight on, but in reality the set is all turned to the side. This is notorious for the movie Nightmare on Elm Street, when the girl is going up the wall, and it's the blood, and she's crying out for help and all that, and the guy's there on the bed. He can't do anything to help her, and he can't really believe what he's seen. They used the same set design in that movie as they did in this one, and I think it worked out really great, except for the part when they caught it on fire. It kind of looked like a model at that point, and it wasn't the greatest. So other than that I thought was a great use of camera techniques and set design. It worked really well for the film. And, you see this kind of model, using models and stuff like that in the movie, and it actually works really well throughout the movie. So let me go ahead and kind of just start wrapping this up. My final thoughts and overall rating of the movie. The Stuff is a 1980s, it's an 80s classic B movie. Despite its low budget, we still get a great movie with decent visual effects, and it's meant to be a horror comedy. Okay, it's meant to be a spoof movie. The movie is highly enjoyable and super rewatchable, a great cult classic, which is why I'm going to give The Stuff a 4 out of 5 rating. I think it really embodies that B movie genre. Okay, guys, well, that's going to do it for me. I think there is a white gelatinous substance trying to get into the door here, so I'm going to get out of here. I just want to thank everyone for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of B Movie Reviews. Take care.